Welcome to our session today. My name is Joshua Greer, and I'm a senior architect at Credera. With me today is Jason Booker, our creative director, and Ryan Mann, an architect in our Microsoft Solutions practice. And our topic today is unlocking the power of SharePoint Online through a great user experience. At Credera, we think user experience is very important. Credera was founded in 1999 with its roots in management and technology consulting. We witnessed a growing need and desire for a better user experience. Therefore, 6 years ago, Credera added user experience as a core competency. Today, we will draw from our own experience as well as other leaders in the industry like the Nielsen Norman Group. We care about user experience, but why should you care about it? Let's dive in. Throughout this, we're going to refer to user experience as UX and vice versa. This guy is Jacob Nielsen, and he's a big deal in the user experience community. He, along with Don Norman, founded the Nielsen Norman Group in 1998, which has become a leading voice in user experience. In the third edition of the Nielsen Norman Group's Internet Usability Report, they state that a design going from bad to average usability could save an organization $4 million a year. And that's simply bad to average. Now, this assertion is based on over 10 years of research that the Nielsen Norman Group has done. And it assumes an organization of about 10,000 users. Whether your organization is larger or smaller than this, you can see that there are real financial gains to be had through increased usability and efficiency. So now that we know why we should care about UX, what is it? Well, this guy again states that user experience encompasses all aspects of the end user's interactions with the company, its services, and its products. So user experience is not just about graphic design, it's about all aspects of user interactions. So now let's look at some data. Or maybe not, because this is kind of boring, so let's skip straight to the headline. Good user experience doesn't just happen, and there are serious obstacles to achieving it. Like, how do you create an information architecture that will meet the needs of your users? How do you organize your content? Is it by department, function, or some other scheme? And then, how do you keep that content current and relevant? How do you make your search intuitive and yet powerful? All while ensuring that users can use this system from any device and any location. Well, the good news is that even with these challenges, you can achieve a great user experience. So let's dive in. Let's take a journey together and tell a story of how we can move from a bad to a good user experience. So let's assume we are here in the story at a bad UX. How do we get to a good UX? And that's even more complicated when we throw SharePoint into the mix. But it all starts with having the right approach in place. And we are consultants, so it is mandatory that we have chevrons in our presentation. Our typical approach consists of 5 phases to assess, strategize, plan, design, and implement a good UX. But that kind of gives me brain freeze, so let's skip to something a little bit more digestible. We always want to start with an understanding of where we are today. What is the vision for tomorrow? And how do we get there? Then we iterate on design to know how things should work and look. And finally, we build it. Now, I'm going to hand it over to Jason, who's going to walk us through 2 specific aspects of the design phase. And later, Ryan will discuss some of the implementation phase.
Thanks, Josh. I want to talk about 2 core practices within creating a great user experience: information architecture and interface design. We'll start with information architecture. And some of you may already be thinking, that's boring. Well, Jacob's back with some encouragement for you. And this is well phrased, so I'm just going to read it. Good information architecture makes users less alienated and suppressed by technology. It simultaneously increases satisfaction and your company's profits. And very few jobs let you do both. There's a lot of value to be had in creating great information architecture. And so let's unpack that a little bit. And for reference, we're still really early in the journey. Information architecture is one of the first activities that you do when creating a good user experience. And information architecture is a mouthful, so I'm just going to call it IA. So to unpack it, IA focuses on organizing, structuring, and labeling content. And the main goal there is to help users find the information they are looking for and complete the tasks that they need to complete. So to dive deep, organization. This is how you categorize and structure information. If you have great organization, users will be able to look at the groupings or buckets of your content and understand what content is there to find. Labeling and tagging is the process of naming content. If you have great labeling and tagging systems, your users will be able to understand what content they're looking at by the name, and search engines will also be able to find it. Navigation is pretty self-explanatory. This is just how users browse or move through the information. And search is also self-explanatory. Search is either a user's first tool in finding the content they want or a great backup plan. So working through these different processes within creating information architecture usually results in creating something like this. We call this a site schematic. It's just a visual representation of the organization of your website or application. So this demonstrates content structure, organization, and then usually we also get into naming content at this stage as well. It's just a great tool for setting the vision for where you want to go in terms of organization. Now this is the end product. How did we get here? Well, we've had success with two methods in determining information architecture, and I'll let you guess the names. Any guesses? Yeah, this is card sorting. One more. Yeah, tree testing. All right, so card sorting and tree testing. What are they? Which should you use, and when? Let's dive in and look a little bit at those two different methods. We'll start with card sorting. It's helpful for uncovering insights about users. So card sorting helps you understand what's going on in your user's head and create navigation and organization systems that are intuitive to those users. Card sorting used to be done with actual cards or pieces of paper where users would write pieces of content on those pieces of paper and then group them into categories that they would also name. This is effective but limited in scope. You can only really interact with users or sample sizes that will fit in a room. So we've had success with doing this online. This is a screen capture of a web-based tool that I'll introduce you to in just a moment that facilitates card sorting, where a user takes pieces of content from the left-hand column and groups those into categories in the right-hand column. This is helpful because you can immediately reach a larger sample size wherever they are through the web-based tool, and also it allows you to pull insights out immediately and take action. This is a dendrogram, which is just a fancy name for a visualization of where there are overlapping parts of the way people group content together. So let's contrast card sorting with tree testing. Tree testing is helpful for confirming IA structure. So card sorting is a discovery tool, and tree testing helps you determine if you've done it well. Again, here's a screen capture from an online tool where you have a simple task that the user is assigned and a stripped down version of your navigation that they can move through. So the user will click on your navigation headings until they find the place where they think they would find the content, and then click a button. That allows you to evaluate their choices. And again, a web-based tool lets you immediately glean insights. This is what we like to call the pie tree, and it's a visualization of a user's interaction with that tree test. Everywhere that there's red, they took a wrong turn. Everywhere that's green, they found the content where you expected they would find it. And yellow represents they might have taken a wrong turn but gotten to the right place in the end. It just quickly allows you to see where the holes are in your information architecture so you can go pivot and modify to make things more intuitive. Now, why do you care about all this? Information architecture is a little bit of a dry subject. A lot of our clients are prone to skip right over it, but the main headline you need to remember is If they can't find it, they can't buy it. Users have to be able to find what they want and do it in a quick, intuitive fashion in order for them to use your system in an optimal way. And speaking of optimal, we have a tool recommendation for you. Optimal Workshop is a web-based tool that we've found great success with. It facilitates tree testing and card sorting, user surveys, and a few other information architecture discovery and confirmation practices. And you can do it all online wherever your users are. It's fairly inexpensive to use, and you're definitely going to get your values worth out of it. Okay, on to the next one. Interface design, or as my clients usually call it, the fun stuff. So high level, when we are working on interface design, we work low fidelity to high fidelity, and there's several reasons for that, but the main one is that you want to be able to pivot early and be iterative in your approach. So what does low fidelity to high fidelity mean? Low fidelity, a good example is a whiteboard sketch, something that you can draw and erase really quickly to get ideas out on the table and be able to understand if they are workable. Once you have a loose idea with a whiteboard or a napkin sketch or something like that, you can move up the ladder in fidelity to a wireframe that may just be boxes on a page, but it allows you to work through a layout and hierarchy and understand where your content is going to go and what content is going to be needed. This is a great tool for planning, and we'll dive into that a little bit more. Then you can move into design mockups, which you're probably all familiar with. This is a much more accurate representation of what the finished product will look like. And this is great for casting a vision. I want to be able to dive in with you to these three tools in the process of creating interface design, and we'll go one at a time. We'll start with wireframing. Wireframing is great for planning and for speedy iteration. So you want to be able to understand what the scope of your project is, and you want to be able to have a grasp on what content's needed and how it will be presented. And you want to do that in a way that you can pivot quickly and make changes early in the process. Wireframes may look a little bit like this. They may be much simpler, just renderings of layout or functionality that your application will have. And they will help you work through some of your early ideas and land on what you want your finished product to feel like. Next, you can move into design mockups. Design mockups are great for casting a vision, and once you've got them in place, for creating a design prototype that can be used to test with stakeholders and with users. Design mockups are much more accurate in terms of the final product than a wireframe. They would include branding and imagery, all that good stuff. And there may be quite a few screens that you end up creating in order to fully craft the vision for what your finished product is going to be. Once you've got those screens designed out and looking how they're going to look when the product's built, you can use those to create a prototype. So prototypes are great for simulating the end product and for solving problems along the way. We find that creating a prototype out of screens helps us to evaluate the vision for the design in the context that it's meant and quickly find problems. This is a visual of a prototyping tool we use, and you can see the blue boxes highlight clickable areas that will link one screen to another, creating a simulation of the design. In the end, you want to avoid ending up here, and that's having a product that was not like what you wanted it to be. We've got a couple of tools that we'd recommend to you in interface design. First is Sketch. This is a graphics program that is rapidly supplanting Photoshop as the industry go-to. Sketch was designed and created by user experience designers and developers, and it facilitates very rapid creation of design and also facilitates exporting front-end code to jumpstart your development process. InVision is a web-based tool for creating prototypes and linking designed screens together to simulate the end product. And they actually are very tightly integrated so that when you create designs in Sketch, you can immediately upload them to InVision. We've had great success in working with these tools and iterating through designs to completion with our clients, and I would recommend them to you as well. Again, they're very inexpensive to use, and you'll definitely get your value out of them. So if you've missed everything else I've said, here's the bottom line. For information architecture, find ways to test and learn from your users so that you create and organize content in a way that they can find it intuitively. For interface design, you want to work fast and loose in the beginning and work low fidelity to high fidelity so that you are able to work out the kinks as you move forward. All right, now I'm going to hand it over to Ryan Mann, who's going to show us how some of this comes to life in an actual implementation.
All right, thank you, Jason. So everything that we've talked about today so far has really been, vision casting or strategy. I'm here to talk today about how we put pen to paper and do some implementation. So traditionally, there are 4 ways to approach a custom user experience in SharePoint. It's out-of-the-box theming, which is really just color scheme changes or adding a custom logo. Alternate CSS. Alternate CSS allows you to add some styling to elements on the page that are available out of the box. When you add JavaScript injection on top of that, that allows you to add pieces of information or web parts on the page that wouldn't normally be available. And then you can go full on with custom master page, which gives you all the keys to the kingdom. So as you notice, as you move left to right on this chart, while you increase your flexibility on what you can do, you lose your capacity for maintainability. So the important thing to point out here is that there's a sweet spot. And that sweet spot is right there in the middle where it allows you to kind of maximize both your flexibility and your maintainability. So here's where we are in the story, right? All the effort that we put in at this point has produced an actual product, so we're tangible. So what does a good user experience look like? Joshua had mentioned earlier that there's a difference between graphic design and user experience. One of the key things to keep in mind there is graphic design is subjective. Jason might like something that I don't, and so it's important to point that out, whereas the user experience is going to be universal. If you have a bad user experience, everybody's going to probably have that. So as we were thinking about how to tell this story today, we decided to come up with a fictitious company. So I give you Credera. Credera is a new startup that has chosen to build their employee portal in SharePoint Online. And in order for Credera to achieve success, it was mandatory for them to be able to communicate effectively, relevantly, and efficiently. So you might ask, what does this company do? Well, they are in the business of drone delivery. B2B, B2C, C2B, you get the idea. All right, now it is time to get real and take a look at a good user experience. Remember, it's not just about graphic design, it's about the entire interaction experience. So give me a second and I will hop over to the demo. All right, this is Credera's employee portal. Now, before we dive in, it's important to point out that generally speaking, there are 3 types of user personas that interact with your site. Those are seekers, readers, and searchers. Seekers tend to leverage navigation or links on a page in order to get to where they want to go. Readers are a little bit different. Readers tend to consume the content as it's being delivered. So they might read information from top to bottom on the page in order to get to where they want to go. Searchers are pretty self-explanatory. They're going after information on their own. However, they need a mechanism or they need the capacity to be able to get to where they want to go. So that being said, Jason had mentioned earlier today that there are 4 kind of pillars in the information architecture structure. That's organization, labeling and tagging, navigation, and search. So we're going to start with organization. So as you can see on the page, we've set up our information in such a way towards it's compartmentalized, right? We've got our headline news that's been scrolling as I've been speaking here for the last couple of minutes. It's important to point out organization is important in regards to delivering information on a page, but also how you structure that content within your entire application. So you want to apply that concept again, not just to the page design, but how you have your data laid without your site structure inside of that. So we also have an I need to part here on the page that I'll get back to in a second, but we've noticed a trend in the marketplace where organizations are shifting to a more task-based approach. And so we'll want to cover that here in just a second. We have some more information that is a little more static in nature. And for example, we've got a stock ticker web part. Popular links, that's a quick launch point to allow users to get to other areas within the site. And then we've got a news and announcement section here. So let's say I want to double click and read more information about this new news article regarding FAA guidelines here. Make sure I got my click. So as you can see, with minimal effort, as a user, I was able to drill down and kind of hop over to pull more information about this particular headline item that has been published. One of the things that has also been discussed is it's important to be device agnostic, right? So let's take a look at this user experience on an emulated iPhone 6 Plus here. So as you can see, the experience is very similar. It's changed to some degree. The global navigation has gone into this menu item, or what it's more technically referred to as the hamburger. And so I can click that element, and you can see that global navigation now pops out from the right because I don't have that real estate that I had in this particular viewport. But again, I'm still able to achieve the same functionality on this device as I was from a desktop. So as I scroll down this page, you'll notice all of the elements that I was able to consume from the desktop version are available to me here as well. The only difference is they're just stacked in a little bit different order. So if I scroll back up and say, you know what, I want to read that, or click back down into a similar news article as I did in the desktop experience, the user experience trims to the viewport that I'm consuming it on. And so while it's a little bit more of a scroll exercise for me here, I still can have the capacity to do everything that I could do from the desktop version. So let's hop back over to the desktop version, and let's go back up to the home page. And let's drill into that I need to web part that I referenced a couple of minutes ago. So again, we've seen that task-based trend, and popular ways to achieve that are to leverage items that are called personalization or targeting. What are those? So personalization, as you can see, I've got the ability to customize the information that's here. Personalization allows the user to, let's say I'm in sales, right, for a career. Maybe I do travel a lot for work, but let's say I also want to have some tasks on a weekly basis that I need to report sales data to my manager. Personalization would allow me to go in and customize and choose the experience that I see on the homepage. Targeting is a little bit different. Targeting allows you to control what information gets displayed based upon user role, based upon location. So an example might be, let's say I'm a drone pilot, or I'm efficient at drone repair. I might browse to this page and see spec sheets for drones, or see information that's going to help me do my day-to-day job. So targeting is a little bit different, again, because it allows you to, in that particular example, target that role, but that might be, again, geography or some other item related. Another thing to point out that we've seen in recent history is it's very popular to show information in a capacity like this for what's been trending. So you might have a new project site that had 20 views last week and now has 1,500. So you might want to show that information in order to communicate that, hey, to the organization, this particular item is growing in stature, and allow your users to kind of jump down into that and be aware of what's going on inside the organization. So let's talk about labeling and tagging. We walked through the news and announcements section a little bit earlier. As you can see, I've got a couple of different options to trim this data. So I start at local, I can go to regional, I can go to global, or maybe I'm just concerned with seeing some drone information. Now you'll notice the default behavior was set to local. Now that's by design. That is an exercise of targeting, right? Let's say, I might be in one office in the country and Jason might be in another. We might have a different experience simply based upon that because we're in different locales. So that's a good example of what we had talked about earlier. If we go back to the home page on the mobile experience, you can see I can do the same. I can exercise the same functionality here as I could in the desktop experience. So again, that's just an example of being device agnostic. Another thing that we thought would be extremely valuable, being a startup and growing very rapidly, would be to have an employee directory. So we decided to build one. So you can see here, here's some individuals that work for Credera. But what's important to note out is you'll see that we have some skills that are relative to each individual. So let's say, for example, back to that drone pilot or drone repair. As a user, I need to know, hey, who has drone repair skills? I can select that and click apply. And there you go. There you can see I have an individual in our organization that has been dedicated with drone repair skills. One of the things that's nice here is I can consume some static information, but I can also maybe ping them on Skype, or I can send them an email directly from this interface, which is really nice. So let's go back up to the home page and let's talk about navigation for a second. So Jason had talked earlier about tree testing and card sorting. Ideally, the elements that reside inside of a global navigation would be the output of that, right? As we were coming up with this demonstration, we thought, being in the drone delivery space, we thought policies and compliance might be something that would be very paramount for the organization. So that's something that we thought might be warranted to be included inside of the global navigation. So very important that you perform those exercises so you can target the correct navigation that your users will find intuitive. Another piece of functionality that is very common is to use a mega menu. So what's a mega menu? A mega menu is really just a launch point into potentially an unstructured pieces of content with inside of your portal. So in this particular example, we have 4 different categories and we have some respective links. So let's say, for example, maybe I need to report a drone incident. So I can come over here, click on report an incident. Let's make sure I got my click. There we go. And all it does is take me inside to a custom SharePoint list that has a few columns on it. But you get the idea of being able to quickly navigate to pieces of information that you wouldn't otherwise be able to do in an efficient manner without having something pop up here like a mega menu. It's important to call out that this mega menu is leveraging managed metadata inside of SharePoint so that there's no code required to update this information. So if I needed to make a change or take a link out or add a couple links in, as long as I have term store admin rights, I can go in and add that, and once that's published, that'll be available to the general audience. So mega menus are very effective at getting individuals inside of to get them targeted inside your organization. So you may have noticed throughout this demo that we've got this big search box right in the middle of the home page. As we were coming up with the business case and going through the understanding of what Credera does, we got the sentiment that we were going to have a large number of those searchers, user personas, for representing that user audience and going after data that they might want to find. So let's say I remember seeing an unmanned aviation document out there somewhere, but I have no idea where it's out. And of course, this being a demo, we have exactly one result. You'll probably have a few more than that. But here's my document. I can hover over it. Being SharePoint Online and leveraging some of the newer functionality, I get the nice experience that allows me to hover over and preview the document. I can potentially edit it. I can see who changed it, when it was changed by. I can actually view the library. So maybe I know, hey, this is a sibling document to something else that I'm looking for. Maybe what I'm actually looking for is a drone spec sheet. So again, you get the idea of how search can get you to a point very quickly without having to actually go out and do some hunting through navigation. Another example might be, we've got a drone status map, but I have no idea where that map is. Let's do a search for it. And here I see, oh, there's a page that says map. I can bring this up, and there it is. So you'll notice that we can see a few drones that are in status right now, or that are in flight. So I can click one. Hey, there's drone 14. He's picking up Buffalo Wild Wings lunch for me, and he'll be back at 12:42. So this is another trend that we've noticed in the marketplace too. Is really integration, but where it makes sense. So this could potentially be data that's coming from another line of business system that SharePoint is really just serving as the entry point or the framework to display that to the end user. You'll see here, as just like we had in the employee directory, we have the capacity if we want to filter by search radius, current status. The sky's the limit with how you set that up. It just depends on how you organize that data and how you implement your tagging schema. So let's go back to the home page. So you may be wondering, how did we implement all of this? Well, when I first started talking, I mentioned there are really 4 different ways to achieve a custom user experience inside of SharePoint, right? Well, what we've done, and some of you may or may not believe me, is we've leveraged an out-of-the-box master page, in this case, Seattle. We haven't touched that. That's still the way it was when everything was installed. But what we've done is we've set this up through an alternate CSS file. Now, it's worth pointing out we have leveraged a handful of custom page layouts in order to achieve the web part zones that we needed to do this. But the majority of this has all been achieved through alternate CSS. An example of something that's leveraging that JavaScript injection would be the mobile menu. That's just something that's not available out of the box that we had to bring into the fold in order for the experience to be uniform across devices, and again, to be device agnostic. So let's try and land the plane now while we're still ahead. This guy should feel like family by now. One of the things he said, though, which is very important, is on the web, all advantages are temporary, right? And you must keep innovating to stay ahead, and that's really powerful. So here's where we are in the story, right? We're hopefully at that good UX point, but it's important to call out UX is a living element, right? It should keep evolving. Let's recap on what we've talked about today. Always listen to your users. You know, you might think you know what they want, but it may or may not be correct. And if you implement something without listening to them, you really run the risk of building something that they don't want or that they find useful. Iterate your way to victory. You know, wash, rinse, and repeat. You know, Jason had mentioned earlier, you know, work fast, react, and change. It's really important to work through those items, and then get to a good finish point. Work with SharePoint, not against it. You know, SharePoint is the easiest product in the market to customize. Said no one ever, right? So understand your boundaries and make sure you operate and work within that scope. Don't stop where you're done. You know, back to the point earlier, UX is a living entity. So organizations change, right? As do business requirements. So never stop trying to achieve that stellar user experience. So why are we having this conversation today? Well, you probably tell me it's a day away from the office and there's free stuff. But in all seriousness, and I promise this is the last time you're going to see this guy, if you can sway that meter, if you can go from bad to average, that's a change of $4 million. Now, Joshua had mentioned some metrics, and obviously that's an economies of scale number. But again, you can see the power behind being able to broker that gap from bad to average. The most effective implementations, without question, implementation of SharePoint without question, will leverage a good user experience. So a quick recap about Credera. At our core, we are a management and technology consulting firm. We have significant experience in quite a few focus areas. We provide expert, objective advice to help solve some complex business and technology challenges. That's our presentation today. We appreciate everybody for joining, and thank you very much. Here's our contact information. If anybody has any information or any requests or has any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. So thank you very much.